Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding Motion. And one thing I want to talk to you guys about today is that there's a time and place for a lot of techniques in your bodybuilding journey or your fitness journey, or maybe it's your injury rehabilitation journey, like whatever part of the journey you're on, there is a time and place for certain techniques. So you'll find that over time, as you adapt to this training thing, you'll find that there are certain techniques that seem to agree with you more than others. So you might be one of those guys that has to lift decently heavy, like 8 reps or 6 rep sets or 10 rep sets for the most part. And then once you get stronger, maybe those rep ranges adapt or not. Like maybe they start to increase or decrease. You know, I don't know exactly what's going on in your body, but this does happen. But one thing you will notice is that there are going to be times where the thing that actually worked for you, or the technique or training program that worked for you, is not applicable for the new circumstance that pops up for you. And one of those examples could be in the one thing that really hampers a lot of bodybuilders is the mind-muscle connection or development of a certain muscle in a certain area. There are certain muscles you'll find that develop great for you, and then over time, you'll see that there are some glaring weaknesses that pop up. And that doesn't always mean that you've been doing everything wrong. A lot of times, it's just that you have a certain weak link in your body. Like maybe it's tendon insertions, or maybe it's mind-muscle connection, or maybe it is just you doing exercises to recruit your dominant muscles like we talked about in the last video. But in the end, you will notice that your body develops really well in certain areas, and then there may be other areas that don't. So at that point, you have to look at what you've done to that point in your training and realize that it did produce results in one area, but not necessarily the results you wanted in another area. And this is where humility comes in, and where you're going to have to be open to some other change in some idea you have in your mind about how training works, right? Or how muscle growth works. And I'm not saying the answer is always easy to find, but there's a good chance you need to do something different than what you've been doing in order to get a different result, as the saying goes, right? So one of the things that you'll see me say on this channel, because I'll make a lot of videos about what worked for me and what is, let's just say, my MO, or my general theme that threads through my training, right? I'll talk about certain rep ranges that work for me. I'll talk about certain types of frequency that work for me most of the time. And I'll talk about a certain range of motion and so forth. But the thing is, I always say to you guys, is that sometimes you have to break your own rules, right? So I've talked about high rep sets in the past. I've also talked about rep speed, where I believe in using faster reps for the most part with my training, or at least medium reps for sure, medium speed. And there are certain circumstances where I break that rule, of course, right? If I'm lifting super heavy weight, I'm not just dropping the weight on myself, of course, right? I'm going to lower it down in a safer way and decelerate in a much slower fashion than if I was using lighter weight. But another reason why I may break the rule of fast training reps, and this is the one I'm going to talk about right now, is when I'm trying to rehabilitate an area to recruit muscles properly to avoid joint pain, or to get greater proprioception in a certain muscle that I'm having trouble connecting with. So today what I did is that I took a weight that I could do at least 60, 70, 80 reps with for hybrid flies on the flat. And what I did was I did some faster reps for a period of time, but that didn't feel right. For some reason, like my shoulder just felt weird when I was on a different angle. I started to recruit my delts and so forth. So what I decided to do was just slow the reps down and do some nice slow reps. After a couple sets of faster reps, I did some slow reps. And I felt that my chest was recruited much more efficiently with this specific exercise, doing a slow rep as opposed to a faster rep. So this is why you have to break your own rules, because sometimes you'll find that a general principle will work for you for, most instances, and then it will hold you back in another instance where you need to almost, go in the opposite direction of what you've been doing. So because of doing this slower rep, I felt a greater burn and a deeper pump in the chest. And then of course I went to do some bench presses after. And that felt great because I'm trying to do some more pre-exhaustion type stuff just for fun, just to keep myself sane as I train, right? Sane as you train, that's good. See, to keep yourself sane as you train, it's good to change things up. And yeah, in isolation exercises where you're trying to really connect to that muscle and make sure you're recruiting it dominantly, you may benefit better from doing a slower rep with those types of isolations. And again, I was doing super lightweight, and a lot of times you could actually say that, say you had some sort of stability issues in a shoulder, if you're doing faster sort of reps, your shoulder might recruit the rotator cuff and the delts just to hold the shoulder in place. And perhaps they will fatigue or exhaust faster than the chest will because they're trying to stabilize that shoulder. And the greater the speed, let's just say, the more the muscles have to stabilize that joint, right? So in order to take that out of it as the weak link and concentrate more on that prime mover, a slower repetition may be better in that case. So yeah, play around with this, but understand that isolations or certain types of movements, if you're having trouble connecting to a certain area, may need something that's much different than what you've been doing as your standard protocol for exercises. Mountain. So I hope this helps out in your training. Thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgalantbodybuilding.com, and thanks to the Patreon supporters, and there I do a podcast every week, so make sure you check that out. The link is in the description. Mountain.